Let me start off my questions with hydraulic fracturing, and I know you've had some questions on hydraulic fracturing, but my first question is, do you see hydraulic fracturing across the country as the same? In other words, is hydraulic fracturing in New York and Pennsylvania the same as hydraulic fracturing in North Dakota, the same as hydraulic fracturing in Texas? Is it all just the same?
Well, they all involve hydraulic and they involve fracturing. However, the applications are quite different. The shale plays are quite different.
Right. So you'd say that there's tremendous differences as far as hydraulic fracturing in different places across the country, right? Mm-hmm. Therefore, would you say a one-size-fits-all approach is the right approach? In other words, if it's completely different across the country, does a federal one-size-fits-all approach for every situation work?
Well, Senator Hoeven, again, what I would say is that, first of all, at a very high level, what is, I think, needs to be kind of uniform is we need to have best practices being used everywhere across the country. Now, what those are will vary by site, and I think there's no question that the states will have a very important role. Again, the DOE is not doing regulation, but I think just the physical realities call for states to be heavily engaged.
So combining those, and I understand, obviously EPA is the primary regulator. Your responsibility is to help us develop energy and do it with good stewardship. And of course, that's what we want, and we look forward to working with you in that endeavor. But based on the things that we're talking about, the fact that hydraulic fracturing is different across the country, and that a one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work, then do you see opportunity for the states to really take a lead role and help us develop these incredible resources with some fundamental safeguards? For example, making sure we have transparency. And, obviously, there's some things that may be common across the country, but really, isn't there an opportunity here to build on a states first approach?
Well, again, I think again, when you say things like transparency, again, is something that is kind of ubiquitous principle. Clearly, the companies coming in, they are advancing the process according to the local geology. There's local water issues to be addressed. Once again, I think there's no doubt. Again, DOE will not be involved in regulation, but in terms of some of the technology developments, we might be, and those could be applied in different ways. And certainly looking at things like the integrated use and disposal of water is a place where, again, there may be some research developments which could be quite helpful and applied in different geologies.
In order to get to energy security, I believe we've got to find ways to empower investment, and that takes some flexibility. But by empowering investment, you drive the technology deployment that produces more energy with better environmental stewardship. Clearly, you're going to have a role in doing that. How do you intend to promote that role? I'm using hydraulic fracturing as an example because look at the amazing opportunity we have if we empower that investment. How do you propose to do it?
Well, in general, looking forward, I must say it would be wonderful to replicate the historical success of how DOE, public-private partnerships, and policy all come together to have takeoff, really liftoff in a major part of our energy sector. So I think those are the kinds of areas that I'd like to work with you and others.
Would you be willing to work with me on the type of states first legislation that would empower more investment, as I've described, in things like hydraulic fracturing, carbon capture and sequestration, and other energy development? Are you willing to work on that? That includes not only the technology, but the legal, tax, and regulatory environment, because we're going to have to do both to really get to the kind of energy security we want.
Senator Hoeven, I think that really would not be appropriate for the Department of Energy to work on that legislation directly. However, I would note that one of the initiatives that we hope to move forward, again, the so-called quadrennial energy review, which is exactly an environment in which all of the relevant agencies across the government will be coming together to try to advance a coherent policy. I think in this particular sphere, the QER would try to address the issues that you've raised.
Mr. Chairman, if I may ask for just a couple minutes, how do you see advancing clean coal technology and carbon capture and sequestration? You either got to reduce the costs or create revenue sources, or both. How do you propose to do that? For example, do you see working with MIT and the Energy Environmental Research Center at the University of North Dakota? Is that a way to do it?
Well,
right now, we seem to be stalled. How do we get that ball rolling?
Well, since I will be recused from working with MIT, I guess it'll have to be North Dakota.
Good answer.
I think again, I think there are various different issues to be addressed to get CCS advanced. One is long-term, and I prefer decadal, projects of injecting large amounts of CO2, monitoring it, et cetera. That is essential for getting public confidence and getting a regulatory system in place. That we can accomplish using some of the projects that are now been funded with this nearly $6 billion. Mm-hmm. On the cost reduction for carbon capture, it is, I think, and for the beneficial uses of CO2, both. These are areas still in research. I take, in a kind of a strange way, I take comfort and have confidence that there's a lot of run room to get these costs way down, because we haven't done very much yet in terms of novel approaches to carbon capture, for example, or utilization. The one exception to utilization is enhanced oil recovery. Probably in your part of the world, there may be opportunities there, because I mentioned earlier, already we are producing 300,000 barrels of oil per day from CO2 EOR, and the estimates are maybe a factor of 10 more is possible. Well, if we can do 3 million barrels a day of enhanced oil recovery from CO2 and pay the CO2 capturer $20 or $30 a ton, and have that cost down, suddenly we have a very interesting situation.
Dakota Gasification Company currently takes coal and gasifies it, producing synthetic methane, and then captures the CO2, compresses it, puts it in a pipeline, and uses it for tertiary oil recovery in the Canadian Weyburn oil fields.
Right.
There is a lot we can do partnering traditional and renewable sources. Are you committed to helping us do that and finding ways to drive that forward? It's going to take pushing the envelope on some of these things and getting people to come together from both the renewable and the traditional camps. Are you willing to do it, and how do you plan to do it?
The president is an all-of-the-above person, and I'm an all-of-the-above person.
But in a practical way, you can help drive that process?
I'd be happy to work with you on that, yes.
Thank you.